So a state is a body of beliefs or an identity we associate with that reflects in our experiences as a sort of theater that plays out according to the state we choose. Now, Amy Green, who was the wife of Marilyn Monroe's personal photographer Milton Green, shared an experience of where Marilyn demonstrated this power in front of her eyes. She said, "I'll never forget the day Marilyn and I were walking around New York City, just having a stroll on a nice day. She loved New York because no one bothered her there like they did in Hollywood. So as we were walking down Broadway, she turned to me and says, 'Do you want to see me become her?' I didn't know what she meant, but I said yes, and I saw it. I don't know how to explain what she did. It was so very subtle, but she turned something on within herself that was almost like magic. And suddenly, cars were slowing and people were turning their heads and stopping to stare. They were recognizing that this was Marilyn Monroe, as if she pulled off a mask or something, even though a second ago nobody noticed her. I had never seen anything like this before." Now, as I've been working with this information since 2004, when I discovered it through Think and Grow Rich, I found that it became easier to suggest to myself how I desire my experience to be and instantly enter into that state and feel it. From there, I noticed that how I relate with others and how they relate with me changes right away to reflect that state. There was a time where I used to ask certain questions. What should I say? What should my behaviors be? And what I realized from working with this information is that all those aspects arise naturally from the mental state. And as I continued to embody it, it became my dwelling place. And from there, what I say, how I say it, and how I carry myself also reflects that state. Now let's look at a few states I've identified for myself as an example to encourage you doing this. One where I would call a peak flow or high bliss, which is my version of Marilyn's Hollywood state. Another I would call a calmer flow or a calmer bliss. So I could switch to these states instantly now, no matter what other state that I'm in. And I would like to encourage this ability within you in this video. So you already have the ability to do this. You can switch your state and enter into any character instantly. Actually, we were always doing this. Now we have become consciously aware. We can do this upon conscious intention. For example, if I'm out in public, when I'm working on my projects, it's more of a calm flow. When I'm around clients, speaking publicly, or when I'm out having fun, I can bring myself into a state prior, which I call peak flow. A lot of fun, a lot of bliss, a lot of joy. And what we say, how we say it, everything flows effortlessly and naturally. In both of these states, it's important to acknowledge that I am highly aware and integrated with my physical environment, emotions, and inner conversations. I maintain lighthearted observation without becoming overly identified with the experience, so that I could be aware if my state is about to change and re-enable it as needed. Through the journey, this becomes automatic, and you'll find that you'll remain in the state as long as you desire. Extremely valuable if you're a performing artist, public speaker, entrepreneur, and as mentioned, we all have this inherent ability. So to do this, the first step is to acknowledge that you already have this ability to enable any state by inner suggestion, such as the word flow. In NLP, we call this anchoring, which we'll talk about in a moment. So you may also notice that you might not need to suggest this anymore, flow, or whatever you'd like, to enter the state. You can feel back into it instantly. You can think feelingly, or you could feel whatever you'd like. So in Tuesday's video, I brought up the quote from William Walker Atkinson, which I love reflecting upon. He said, "The best suggestionists are those who have acquired the suggestive manner, which is developed by the exercise of authoritative utterances and commands, the physical appearance, manner, and tones arising from a reflection of the mental state within. So as mentioned, authoritative utterances, physical appearance, manner, and tones all arise naturally and authentically from the mental state we associate with. So we go right to the cause. And there's only one cause within, I, your formless self, I. When one thinks of the I, they may picture it as a human body with organs. To one overly identified with this idea, perhaps the body is considered to be the real self. One may also picture their I as intellect or mind, having control of the body and its organs. To them, they may consider the intellect as the highest self. Now, the I, awareness, actually transcends beyond the intellectual plane and is able to observe that plane and also the physical plane. I acknowledges the value of both mind and body and regards them as expressions to which I animates a selected state. This I, awareness, knows itself to be one with the I of others. I adopts the body and a power called mind with which to manifest itself as a reflection of a selected state. So for the sake of our objective today, it is important to remember that I fuses itself to a state that we select in imagination. It is one with the I of all and adopts the body and a power called mind with which to manifest the state. The state is then experienced as a mirror reflection of what we call life experience. So we can switch from one state to another in our imagination. We allow this to be easier as we acknowledge that I is transcendent to doubts while we are imagining and fusing with the state. So we completely, in the instance called now, leave one state and enter into another via self-suggestion, such as flow. I am my ideal now. Ideal state now. And so the all is mind, the universe is mental, and reality is now. The past and future do not exist in the now as we select the state. All is an expression now of the state we are subconsciously associated with now through conscious suggestion. As we imagine what implies, we notice that we change to reflect that state. Upon entering the state, we notice that we feel like the state. We observe what we say, how we say, and our behaviors change. And with respects to others in the environment, how we emotionally relate with them, how they emotionally relate with us, how we behave with them, and how they behave with us changes. This is a form of what we call in NLP an anchor. In NLP, anchoring is associating an internal response to some external or internal trigger so that the response may be quickly reaccessed. By working with this information, we're doing it internally via self-suggestion. So the internal trigger, the self-suggestion, the internal response, the state, you maintain lighthearted observation as this is occurring, and then everything feels natural from this state. You're highly aware, you're integrated with your physical environment, emotions, inner conversations. There's a deep empathy, presence, and relatability with others as all reflect that state. So to further encourage this ability, we want to acknowledge that there's no external power greater than our inner suggestion, which then no unnecessary identification to an external aspect can bind us into any state via belief that perpetuates a certain state. So it's important then to be aware of what we say about anything we talk about with respect to our environment, for everything exists within you. It is possible for you to return to your formless self instantly, to transcend all past meaning and select a state you desire. So now as you are working with what implies, You allow yourself to instantly recall your desired state. Let's explore if any possible doubts seem to surface in regards to this being instantaneous for you. So let's work with some Robert Dill's information. As you might know, I love Robert's work, and you may see in my videos that I refer to his logical levels many times. So we question any possible doubts by having conversations with ourselves about the doubt. And I trust you'll find the following language patterns to be very helpful during your invisible counsel or inner conversation sessions. So our intention, instant state change. Number 1, reality strategy. How does one know that change and time are related? Number 2, model of the world. There are others out there, no different, who have changed their entire life with one instant shift in perspective. Do you know any stories? I'm sure they're going to show up. Number 3, counterexample. I can recall the effects of what happens if one remains fixed to a dogmatic way of thinking. Number 4, intent. My intent is not to deny any resistance. It is to further encourage that it's become easier. Number 5, redefine. I'm not changing myself. I'm allowing myself to be. Number 6, chunking up. Does this imply listening to opinions rather than what I know is true? Number 7, chunking down. How specifically is being how I truly want to be and difficulty related? Number 8, metaphor or analogy. States are like wardrobes. Every time I change them, I get to play another character in the theater of life. Number 9, another outcome. It's a question of how much I inspire others I love to be who they truly desire to be as a result of being this way. Number 10, consequence. If I don't encourage this ability, would I be inviting unnecessary suffering? 11, hierarchy of criteria. Wouldn't it be wiser to focus on changing the state rather than trying to control every detail, which happens naturally anyways, from that state? Number 12 is apply to self. So through this process, we're applying it to ourself. However, in consulting, we apply this with a client. So we can say apply to self, higher self in this conversation. This is amazing. How come you didn't reveal this to me earlier? Number 13, change frame size. Over the course of your journey, you'll see how many areas of your life have been enhanced by encouraging this ability. Number 14, metaframe. This ability is just the beginning of even greater abilities you will discover by claiming it. So we see then how powerful it can be to engage in encouraging inner conversations with ourselves, to question our beliefs, so that we can be how we truly desire to be and allow ourselves to switch states instantly. So in summary, as we continue to encourage returning to our desired state, the easier it is. Number 2, being aware, observing, acknowledging the I that observes. And from there, we select our state by imagining what implies. As we continue to do this, it becomes easier. We can not only make the state our dwelling place if we desire, but recall any state upon self-suggestion easily, like Marilyn did. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion that weaves all the 14 language patterns together to further encourage. You could say, I realize that change happens instantaneously as what exists is the eternal now. From an easy and instant change of state, others reflect the mood within me. I found it has become easier to know what state I am in as I allow myself to be how I authentically desire to be. It's easy to trust and listen to what I suggest to myself. I enjoy traveling through states, playing the different roles and characters I associate with. Through this way of being, I inspire others to also do the same, transcending thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and environments, acknowledging my formless self, I, and give form to experience by the state that I choose. From my ideal, loving state, everything flows naturally and effortlessly to reflect my state as others reveal the loving state I've chosen. I further listen to myself and trust myself, which is experienced in all areas of my life, whatever I do, wherever I go, on the blissful journey to actualizing my higher self. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.